Okay, these are solutions for the final sheet from the homework. These are multiple choice questions from AP exams, past AP exams. So let's look at number 1 first. And the important part about this question is that it says Riemann sum and a midpoint rule. Okay, so we're going to use two intervals. So over here you can see we're going from 0 to 4. So we're going to go think of the intervals from 0 to 2. And then from 2 to 4, those would be equally spaced intervals. So we're only going to need to use two rectangles, and I know it's rectangles because it's the midpoint rule. So the length of my first rectangle is going to be 2, because it's right here, it's going from 0 to 2, and the next one also is going to be 2. Okay, now we just need the heights of these, but we're using the midpoint formula, so the midpoint between 0 and 2 would be 1. So we're going to look over here when x is equal to 1, y is equal to 1.2. Sorry, I got this new pen that's not cooperating. Okay, and for the second one, we're looking between the midpoint between 2 and 4, which would be 3. So we're going to do the table here, and we see that we get 6.5. There should be a point here. There it goes. Okay, so what are we going to get here? 2.4 and 13. If you add those together, you're going to get 15.4, and that is choice D. Okay, let's look at the next problem. Make some room here. Okay, so the question is asking you which is going to be true. And so if we have, let's look at the first one. If we have a function going from A to B, and this function is increasing, let's say it's a parabola, then a left Riemann sum would be an underestimate. So let's see, if I was to break this up, it's bounded right here, and I'm going to do a left Riemann sum, meaning I'm taking it from here and I'm making my rectangle. That would be an underestimate. That is very true, because you can see that this part over here would not be counted for at all. So number 1 is definitely true. Okay, so let's look at the next one. If f of x is increasing, that's the picture that we just had, and g of x is decreasing, okay, then which one's going to be bigger? So let's make a nice new picture here. So let's say that this is A, this is B, and this is going to be my f of x in red. Whoops. And then I'll use another color for our g of x, and g of x is decreasing. So let's say that g of x looks like this. Also from A to B. Okay, so the question is asking, will the area from A to B of f of x, so will the red function, so that's this one here, think about the area under the curve there, that is going to be bigger than the area under the curve of g of x. Well, this really depends on what the functions are. If they are exactly how I just made them, then the areas would be completely the same. So one would not be bigger than the other. So it could be, but not always. So we're going to say false for that one. And then for the third one, let's draw a new picture. Okay, f is concave down from A to B. So here's A, here's B. So if we're concave down, let's say we look something like that. Okay. Then the midpoint Riemann sum, so we're going to bound this off here. We're going to do a midpoint Riemann sum, so the midpoint would be here, is an overestimate. So let's see, if I draw it like this, that does look like that would be an overestimate. But let's look at another picture, because that's only one possibility. Let's make some room here. Let's try another picture. So I'm concave down, so let's say that I look like, whoops, I'm going to exaggerate it a little bit. Here's A, let's say here's B. So I'm cutting it off right here and here. And I'm going to do a midpoint rule right here. Just get another color. And when I draw my line, the midpoint sum would be an overestimate. Well, it is an overestimate over here, and over here a little bit as well. So yes, that would have to be true. So we're looking for an answer 1 and 3, and that's right here, choice C. And that finishes that homework.